This is Dave, and I'm here with Ethan, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 228-inch.
On this episode, we welcome back Kenneth Guinup and Jon Schwartz, fresh off their Collector's Call episode featuring Kenneth's bodacious Weird Al collection.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird
It's
Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Hello, Ethan, and welcome to episode 228-inch, aka episode 19 feet.
Wow, 19 feet! That is so impressive, Dave. That's like the same as 6 1/3 yards or 5.7912 meters.
Well, we want to thank all of our amazing listeners who shared their awesome feedback with us about episode 227-inch, featuring Lisa Welchel and Mike Smeedler from MeTV's Collector's Call.
We are so glad to hear you all loved that episode as much as we did getting to make it for you. And if you loved that one, wait until you see what we have in store for you this episode.
And regarding episode 227-inch, I know a few of our listeners mentioned that they felt intern Frank had some important news and we should have let him share it with us.
Intern Frank was on the last episode? Really? I didn't notice.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that too.
Well, if that did happen, what do you think was so important that intern Frank had to keep rudely interrupting us to try and say?
I have no idea. You know, we could ask him.
Gotta pass!
Yeah, I was only kidding.
Anyway, there is indeed some big news that we wanted to share this episode, so let's see what's happening in Weird Al related news!
This coming July, Weird Al's first film, UHF, will be celebrating the 35th anniversary of its theatrical release. And wow, it feels like just yesterday I remember hearing all the buzz about the film coming out.
And I wasn't even born yet, so I didn't hear any of it.
Well, to celebrate, Shout Factory is releasing a special 35th anniversary edition of the film on 4K, Ultra HD, and Blu-ray.
Shout Factory is offering several incredible exclusive packages on their website, ranging in price from $35.99 to $129.99.
These packages have various combinations of some very cool and exclusive collectibles, including an exclusive 18-inch by 24-inch rolled poster of the original theatrical artwork,
a second exclusive 18-inch by 24-inch rolled poster featuring a brand new design,
2 slipcovers,
a retro prism sticker,
a Smell-O-Vision sticker set,
a collectible fridge magnet that says Spatula City,
a remote control stress relief collectible,
and an enamel pin set.
The official release date for the 35th anniversary edition is July 2nd, and Shout Factory is taking pre-orders on their website right now.
As far as we can tell, the special features match those from the 25th anniversary edition, but this Ultra HD 4K edition features a brand new scan of the original 35mm camera negative.
If you want to add these amazing items to your collection, we recommend that you do not wait to pre-order because the deluxe edition is limited to 500 copies and the edition with the exclusive poster is already sold out.
Now, interestingly, Shout Factory also has put up a pre-order for the Weird the Al Yankovic Story Steelbook, also saying it will release on July 2nd.
Now, this is pretty interesting because we already have multiple copies of the Steelbook that we purchased from Walmart, and it's available to purchase right now over at walmart.com.
As far as we can tell, there's no difference between these versions, so, well, I don't know. We don't make the news. We just report it.
And this coming Friday, May 3rd, Eric Appel and Nina West will be screening Weird the Al Yankovic Story at Gateway Film Center in Columbus, Ohio, as a fundraiser for Gateway Film Foundation.
The event starts with a reception, and following a screening of the film, there's a Q&A with director Eric Appel and Nina West, who portrays the drag icon Divine in the film.
They are asking attendees to come dressed as their favorite Weird Al persona for a chance to win prizes and show support.
Dave and I have our tickets and hope to see our friends and listeners there.
I'm not sure if we have any stickers left.
Oh, don't worry, Dave. I think we still have at least 228 wooden nickels.
Perfect. And seemingly unrelated to the 35th anniversary of UHF, and instead part of their Alamo Time Capsule 1989 series of screenings, participating Alamo Drafthouse theaters across the country are throwing a UHF movie party.
They advertise that the UHF movie party will feature all sorts of fun props, including TV signal glasses, gummy hot dogs, and fake mustaches.
The ad implies the TV signal glasses are custom printed and they look really cool, so hopefully they are actually that cool.
While we don't have an exhaustive list of theaters doing the screenings, we do know places like New York City and Los Angeles are long sold out.
As soon as we heard the news from our friend Adriana Yugovich, we shared it on our official Facebook group. Make sure you join the group for other timely announcements as we, or the people in the group, learn about really cool new things. You can get there by visiting group.2000inch.com.
The dates for some of the parties all seem to be in the last week or so of June. Now, the event that Dave and I are going to is on Monday, June 24th in Yonkers, New York. There's still a few seats left at that screening as of this recording, so maybe we'll see you there.
And most likely, we'll still have plenty of wooden nickels left over.
This episode is brought to you in part by Vegan Burrito Restaurant, Burrito Burrito, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in quesadilla Burrito Burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito Burrito and Burrito Burrito, your Burrito Burrito, and Wizard Burger for mouth-watering loaded, dare I say beefy, vegan burgers. From Albany to Uranus, Burrito Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world, plant-based, real food, always vegan style. Visit burritosquare.com and wizardburger.com to order ahead.
Last week, Weird Al made his debut on the fairly still new After Midnight, hosted by Taylor Tomlinson on CBS, the spiritual successor of Comedy Central's At Midnight with Chris Hardwick.
Weird Al's panel was rounded out with faces familiar to both Al and Al fans, Drew Carey and Thomas Lennon.
Not only did Al ultimately claim victory, defeating his pals, he proved that he can still put his leg behind his head.
You can catch the episode on Paramount Plus or YouTube, and we can't recommend it enough.
There is also a Weird Al-related clue in the New Yorker mini crossword puzzle from April 19th.
All right, Dave, what was the clue?
Number 9 across. Former vice president who defeated Yankovic in an Al vs. Al segment of the animated show Celebrity Deathmatch. Do you know the answer, Ethan?
Honestly, I do, but I'm just still too upset about the ending of that match to even answer, so gotta pass.
On that note, we'll move on to what's happening in Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast related news.
This past Monday, April 29th, the long-awaited Weird Al podcast crossover special episode featuring the Weird Pals podcast, Weird Algorithm podcast, the Beard Al podcast, and our very own Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast was finally released.
In this pretty stinking majestic episode, the hosts from all 4 Weird Al podcasts team up to talk about the classic Weird Al track, I Think I'm a Clone Now, off of the Even Worse album.
Dave and I had an absolute blast recording with Tim, Andy, Matt, Matthew, and Lauren. And if you'd like to get in on all the fun, check out the nearly 2-hour-long episode over on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this right now, unless you're listening to this on 2000inch.com or an Atari 2700 cartridge, just by searching Weird Pals.
There's also a direct link to the episode posted in our official Facebook group, group.2000inch.com, for those of you who like to click on links.
And last but not least, the episode of Collector's Call that we all wanted to see, featuring past guests of the podcast, Kenneth Guinup, Jon Bermuda Schwartz, Weird Al, and Lisa Welchill, finally aired on Sunday, April 21st on MeTV. We've got lots to discuss about this incredible episode, but I think maybe we should have that discussion with 2 of the stars of the episode. All right, Dave, take it away.
We are very excited to welcome back to the podcast two of our most favorite people. They were recently on MeTV's Collector's Call, the great John Bermuda Schwartz and the bodacious Kenneth Guinup. Welcome back to the podcast. So nice to talk to both of you again.
Woohoo! Glad to be back.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Hey, Ethan.
There's been many months since you guys filmed this, and we finally got to see this on MeTV. And it completely lived up to all my expectations. It was absolutely bodacious. It was so much fun. What was the first thing that you guys thought of when you were watching the episode finally?
Well, for me, Erin was standing next to me, my wife, with a fan, fanning me off because I'm like sweating profusely. Just hoping that everyone enjoys it. But it went very well. I was really happy with the editing. Shocked a little bit about a couple things that were not shown that we talked about, but it was a lot of fun actually.
Yeah, I thought, obviously I was there. I had no idea what it would turn out like. I've seen the show, so I know how they put it together, and I know they cut in comments by Lisa and by the expert and by the collector, and they sort of put together a nice experience. It's not just showing a bunch of stuff. And so I was very anxious to see how they put it together, and I thought they did a really good job. About 7 months had passed, 6-7 months since we shot it, and I'd forgotten some of the little bits and pieces that were in there.
Right.
But it was nice to be reminded of that, and I thought they did a great job of it. And from the comments I've seen online, it was a very well received episode.
Yeah, actually, one of the producers contacted me yesterday and said, hey, just want to let you know that the Weird Al episode rated really high on the charts.
Wow!
Oh, cool.
You know, that's not really a surprise to me, but that's great to hear. And Ethan, you didn't ask me how I felt about watching the episode, but let me tell you, that episode was incredibly hard to watch because of how much stuff Kenneth has in his collection that I was going, I want that, I need that, I want it. So it was a great episode. I loved it so much. Jackie and we watched it together, and I actually watched it twice because I liked it so much, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything in Kenneth's impressive, bodacious collection.
Well, the funny thing is while I was watching it, I was literally thinking, wow, I wish Dave could show that. I wish Ethan could show this thing. I started thinking of other collectors and like, wow, think of all the things that are accumulated across the world from people who love Al.
Yeah, it's a great representation of the various things that all of us have in our collections. And I think one thing that really I was thinking about, knowing your collection and how deep it goes, Kenneth, is how it just barely scratched the surface of how extensive your collection is. I mean, the stuff on the walls, it's really cool, and it's a great showcase of fan art and that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily the nitty-gritty kind of crown jewels stuff that I think Dave and myself and Bermuda would necessarily nerd out about.
Yeah, no, there's still a few things in the closet, up in the attic, under the bed, under the sink.
We definitely need more than a half-hour show to see anywhere near the tiny little percentage of your collection that we did get to see. Hoping they do come back and they do a couple sequels. Maybe we'll get an entire Collector's Call, Kenneth Guinup spin-off series. That would be my vote.
Well, actually, we should talk to them about doing. Let's open up Bermuda's garage.
Oh, Bermuda! God, I would love that.
Well, I hate to say it, but while I have a lot of stuff, of course, it's somewhat accessible. It's not really on display the way some of Kenneth's stuff is, and it's not all as easy to sort out. I mean, it's very haphazardly organized, if that's such a thing. In boxes, and some of them are labeled as to what's in the box. I used to do that, and then eventually I just started putting stuff in boxes. I mean, the CDs and CD-sized items have their own boxes. DVDs have their own boxes. VHS are in a safe. They're just on shelves in a safe. Basically, it's as is vinyl, as are the 45s. Cassettes are all in cassette storage boxes. You probably didn't know there was such a thing, but I think Uline, the Uline supply has cassette folding boxes. Very cool. So I got a bunch of those, and they're not that. Other than saying, here's 34 boxes full of CDs, each one different. It's really hard to go through all of them. It's really hard. Somebody actually wanted to come and see all the stuff, and it can't be done. I mean, it's not. It's basically squirreled away, and Al will see it all someday. When he goes through it, and he can organize it, or Nina can organize it, or somebody else other than me. So as far as going through that stuff and seeing it, and me, pulling it out and showing it to a camera, it's a very, very daunting task, an extremely probably not going to happen. That stuff is just going to stay in its boxes until it gets trucked over to Al someday.
Well, if you're ever taking volunteers, Bermuda, I think there's 3 guys on this call who would help organize and sort through stuff for you.
You guys would probably kill each other for some of the things I've done. I mean, Kenneth, and with all due respect to Kenneth, you have found some amazing things I didn't know about, things I knew about and thought I'd never see, and you said, "Oh, I have an extra of this. Would you like it?" You managed to find 2 of them. So you have absolutely helped the archive very much, and brought stuff to my attention I had no idea. So that's very. So I thank you very much for that. But I think you guys would go nuts over the extent to which I have collected stuff, and the access I've had to things at a time when they could be had.
Right.
At a time when it wasn't like an eBay thing, and I've got all of those Japanese cassettes and LPs, and they're sealed.
Right.
For example, I've got that the Japanese Eat It VHS tape.
Wow.
And I don't think I ever opened it. I think it is also sealed, or at least it's unplayed. I mean, it's in new condition as it came to me.
Right.
So those are the kind of things I have. And you would certainly drool over a bunch of them, but Kenneth has certainly got stuff I don't have, and I think a lot of collectors have things I don't have, and it's only the fact that I started collecting from day one that I've got an edge at all. Is that I've been doing it since before anybody really even knew who Al was. So
That's pretty cool, though.
that's kind of my edge.
Yeah.
As far as seeing it all, that's a tall task. But I will add that it's all in a database. Catalog numbers, release dates where I've got them, the label if that's appropriate, the distributor if that's appropriate, artist if it's not on Al, if Al's not on it, then there's a description of what it is about the product that makes it part of the archive. Al sang on this song, or he played accordion on this song, or he is thanked on their album, or whatever it is. There's a note as to why it's in there if it's not obviously an Al studio recording.
Wow.
But all of those things are in there, and I probably have about 1,900 entries in there, of which I have probably 1,700 or 1,800 of them.
Wow.
And that's not books. That's just media, video, audio recordings, and from around the world. So that's just that.
I think Kenneth was the perfect person for this collector's call just because of his display. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Bermuda, because a lot of my collection is also in boxes, and I know where it is and I know how to get to it. But if a film crew ever came over and wanted to record it, they would need to give me a lot of advance warning to pull out all the really cool stuff, But Kenneth has all the really cool stuff hanging up on his walls, on his shelves, on his bed.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
It's on display. It was great. Now, I'd never been to Kenneth's house before, and I don't think I'd ever seen a photo of that. And I know I've only that only scratches the surface. But I was very impressed. There's one room that we shot most of the stuff in, the Al room, and very impressive. I mean, we had a lot of one-of-a-kind things on there. Some gold records. There are not duplicate gold records. Whoever's gold record he has, that person doesn't have it anymore.
Right.
Yes.
So there's those kind of things. But just very, very impressive display a very cool room, a very comfortable room, for me. I enjoyed it.
You can spend some time in there, right?
Oh yeah.
Now, I think anyone listening has seen the episode, so I don't think we need to worry about spoilers. So I want to jump right to the trade, because this is, I think, Kenneth, before you filmed the episode, you were talking to me and you were saying that you were nervous about it, as you should be, because this is a big deal. So ultimately what happened, Bermuda, you traded a Weird Al Live misprint DVD with Chill Factor on it, advanced mixes of Al Palooza and Poodle Hat, illustrated Al softcover with blank insides, and the handwritten original lyrics to the hernia rap. And you traded those to Kenneth, and he accepted the trade for the Australian 2-for-1 cassette tape with the first 2 albums on it, and the Philippines Best of Yankovic cassette tape. Now, I just want to get your... Kenneth, are you still happy with your trade, or do you have any regret?
No, I'm actually very happy with the trade. I will say I had to think for a moment, because that cassette really traveled around before it came to me. I had never ever seen the 2-for-1 Australian cassette. The album, the LP comes up, once every 5 years or so. But a guy I went to high school with, he moved to Australia and became a barrister. And he and his wife went to the island of Tasmania, went to a junk store, and there was the cassette. He took a photo. He bought it because I think it was just $10-20. And he sent it to me and said, "Hey, look what I got for you." And I just freaked out. I was like, "How in the world did you find this?" He goes, "Well, we're on the island of Tasmania. I'll be back in Melbourne tomorrow, but then I got to go to London. But once I get to London, I'll mail it to you." And he did. He mailed from London. And then for a couple of years, I've posted it and asking, Al collectors, does anybody have this? And nobody would respond.
That's absolutely incredible. Yeah. I mean, from Tasmania to London to Seattle to now Bermuda's collection. That's incredible. I mean, there must have been more than one produced, but the fact that nobody's ever seen one of these before it's astounding to me.
It is, but, you have to think, too, it's a cassette. And where we're at right now, in the world, cassettes are pretty rare.
Yeah.
That's true.
They haven't had the resurgence that vinyl, LPs have.
No.
Well, I for one, have never seen that cassette either. I didn't even know there was an LP, so we're going to have to talk after this and try to figure out how I get that one from you. But I'm gonna echo what Lisa said. When Bermuda was bringing out those items to trade, and he was bringing out like those handwritten lyrics and those early promo, or not even promo cassette, those early dubs of the Alapalooza and Kenny G's greatest hits, aka Poodle Hat. I was drooling over it, and I was like, I don't even know what he's going to ask for, but I would make the trade. And then, of course, Lisa said if he, meaning Kenneth, had ever hesitated for a second, I would have questioned his sanity. So I'm glad to see that there's a little sanity left in you, and you did jump on that trade, because I would have yelled at you as well if you hadn't jumped on that.
Yeah, no, Bermuda. He made it pretty easy trade there, and the stuff is just, it's precious.
Absolutely.
Well, I will say that I'm happy with the trade as well. I mean, frankly, I have a bunch of those handwritten scripts, and I got a bunch of those cassettes in. I kid. No. You got some one of a kind things.
Absolutely.
And I know they're going to a good home. I'm a completist, and the idea of having those cassettes, where I have an LP of the Off the Deep End, the Philippine, and I have the LP version of the 2-for-1. So I just, the part of that is to sort of complete, my collection, which is Al's collection, really.
Yeah.
But I knew this stuff was going to a good home, and, to someone that would treat that stuff right, and it's not going to end up on eBay, and I wanted the stuff to go to a good home.
Well, thank you, Bermuda.
Bermuda, how did you identify those 2 cassettes from his collection as the items you wanted to trade for?
Well, unlike the stuff I brought, which Kenneth did not know about, Kenneth did show those to me when we were just sort of, he was showing me the room before the filming started. He was sort of poking around. I already had it in my head. And I think, when it came up to, what do you want for these things? I sort of pointed over to the shelf, like those cassettes that we talked about earlier. So that was, it's probably a good thing he didn't show me more stuff, because I would have wanted more stuff.
Kenneth, you shouldn't have shown it to him.
Right.
No, I'm very happy with the trade, though, and those are in the U-line cassette boxes now, on a shelf with 10,000 other things. So those will Al will look at those someday and go, I think I saw those on that Collector's Call show. He'll recognize those.
Yeah, what's really special is not only are those 2 pieces that you needed for your collection, Bermuda, but like you said, those are from the Kenneth Guinup collection. It's from the Collector's Call episode. There's now like an extra special thing associated with those 2 pieces. So
stigma, they call it. I think.
No, it's just
that's not right.
It's very special. I think it's very cool, and I feel good that they went to you, Bermuda.
Oh, no.
Kenneth, if you just sold those 2 tapes on eBay or something, that wouldn't have been right.
Well, they're still up. They have 10 days to go.
Okay.
So I don't know yet. And there's somebody named Elvis 27 is
Those items were also held and touched by Lisa Welchel.
Oh, wow. Well,
That's true.
DNA on there from Lisa.
Oh, I didn't know that. I hadn't thought of that before.
You've got the provenance of it being on the TV show as well, so we know they're authentic.
That's right. Bermuda, I love when you sniffed the handkerchief and you said you smelled Al's mucus.
Oh, yeah. Not the first time, I should add.
No. You're an expert there.
Yeah, that's how, it's either that or you have to bring him in and go, yeah, that's my mucus.
Right.
That's it, all right. And he was busy that day. I don't know if it's widely known, but that episode was shot on Al's birthday.
It was.
It's very cool. What a coincidence.
When when the handkerchief or scarf came up on the show, Erin gave a yelp because she didn't realize that was one of the items. She's like, "You never told me that."
Oh, that's funny.
I said, well, now you know.
Well, I do definitely want to talk about the Weird Al element in the show, but while we're still on the trade, Bermuda, I'd love to hear about these advanced mixes that Kenneth now owns. Are those different versions of the song? Are they, pre-mix versions? Or are those identical audio-wise to what we've heard on the albums?
Well, they're the album mixes, but it was like an advanced cassette of what, the product to come out. So
okay.
He made sure we each had, or the other case, a CD. He made sure we each had copies of those, as soon as they were done, just so we could have them. Of course, we would get product later. So those are the mixes from the albums, but those are his personally made copies to us. And as I said on the show, and I'm pretty sure that everyone would have tossed their cassette copy or simply erased over it or something. None of the other guys ever archived stuff the way I did. So that's something they would have, once they got an album to reference or a CD, the cassette is something they would have recycled somehow. So extremely unlikely that any of those exist within the family at all.
Right. Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the trade, last night I was flipping through the Al Squeezebox photo book from the Accordion 15 album special.
Yep.
And I flipped it open, and it landed on the page where the hernia wrap was right there.
Oh, wow. The exact piece of
awesome.
paper?
Yeah, the piece of paper that is now in my room is right there in the photo book.
That is so cool.
Oh,
And I hadn't connected that before.
wow. That's, well, obviously I was responsible for that. I pretty much put that book together. I had forgotten that that's in there. So now you really have some provenance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. That's so cool.
If people don't believe the TV show, they can just go look in they'll believe Sony, perhaps, who produced that set.
Right.
And, although it is rather suspect that I supplied everything that's in that book. And, I could have supplied a fake thing and then given it to you and tied this all together somehow. But that's a lot of work just for 2 cassettes.
That's a very elaborate plot that you had to put together just so you could get 2 items out of Kenneth Guinup.
Yeah.
And I would have had to have known about Collector's Call before it was even conceived, because that book was put together like in 2015 and 16. I was very prescient on network. I don't even know if there was a MeTV then.
There wasn't.
You're admitting that you're a time traveler, Bermuda. Is that what
Yeah. Well, I'm responsible for that whole thing. The Three Stooges on there and everything. Andy Griffith show. What a coup! What a coup!
I'm sure if you really asked nicely, Kenneth would have just given them to you. You didn't have to go through all this.
No, that was the only way to get on the show, though.
Oh, okay.
That's true. That's true. Well, where else are you going to get a chance to meet both Kenneth Guinup and Lisa Welch all on the same day?
That's true.
Right, in the same room.
Yeah. We're still on the subject of the trade. I've got a couple questions as well. And the first one I want to talk about is, Kenneth, now that you have the misprint of Weird Al Yankovic Live, have you actually sat down and watched Chill Factor yet?
That is going to be watched on the 27th of this month.
Perfect. And this wasn't part of the trade, but this sort of came a little bit before the trade. I want to get your reaction to seeing that high school newspaper that Weird Al just gave to you. He didn't even try to set up a trade with you. He just gave it to you.
That was pretty amazing. It's probably the first publication Al was ever in that he's been saving since 1976.
Wow.
How absolutely incredible is that? Absolutely, I'm still blown away, and such a wonderful message. Al's just such a great guy.
I'm sure that when the Collector's Call people saw that video Al sent, they probably, their brains exploded. They're like, oh my God, this is going to be in every promo. Like, everything Al said was so great. And the way that they cut it, in the promos where it's like, you're insane, all this stuff. You wasted your life. They must have been like, oh my God, this is so great. There's so much they can get out of it. Did we see the whole video, or is there more that got edited out?
No, that was the whole video on the show.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Awesome.
And so, Bermuda, did you have any part in what Al chose to give Kenneth as a gift, or was that a surprise to you as well?
No, that was a surprise. I got to say, I got to credit the producers for cooking that video up and either suggesting or Al figured out something to send. And that was all arranged. I didn't see that until Kenneth did.
Oh, wow.
I know Kenneth, and you can see that I hand you the iPhone and with the video on it, but unbeknownst to you, they had handed that to me.
Oh, wow.
Just a moment before. And then while you were watching that, they slipped me the newspaper to hand to you. And truth told, that was the first time I had seen either of those as well. But they let me know well in advance that they were doing that, and just to be prepared.
How cool. Had you ever seen that newspaper before, Bermuda? Do you happen to have one in your collection?
I don't. No, I don't think so.
Wow.
Kenneth can trade it to me someday in Collector's Call Part 2.
Right.
And then I'll have it. Then it'll just end up in Al's hands. He'll go, what is this?
And then there'll be a little note sticker on it saying, it didn't sell for $4.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do decide to sell it, Kenneth, I'm happy to double Al's estimate on there for you.
Oh, $8? Thanks. You're so generous.
Well, I guess we're on the subject of prices now, so let's talk a little bit about some of these items and the prices on them. I guess the first thing up was the placebo EP, and you had an incredible story, Kenneth, of how you found that placebo EP. And Bermuda, you had an incredible story about you and Dr. Demento and Al sitting in, I think, your garage or your apartment, folding all those 1,000 copies of the placebo EP. Yep.
You know what's amazing about that is, in watching the show, every item really became alive because Jon was there. Because of his knowledge, his personal experience, being a part of, truly made that episode and gave it the high ratings that it did get because of Bermuda. I mean, I'm still so grateful that he was the expert for the show. Truly, because there really is nobody else that really could have been the expert except for Jon.
Oh, go on. No, go on. No, thank you so much.
I would even argue, I don't know if Al could have even done it. I don't know that Al knows what this stuff is worth. Do you think he does, Bermuda?
No, because he's not part of sort of the collector's ring. He's not part of that aftermarket thing,
right?
The way we all are,
right?
I mean, I get a lot of stuff direct from him and the labels and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that I have found on eBay and through other trades and stuff. And no, he's not that aware of that. I think if there's something extreme, like he may be aware that the authorized Al book was valued at, what was it, $900 or $950 on the Pawn Stars?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like $450. Yeah, $450. I think they got for that. But yes.
Oh, that's the reduced.
I thought it
maybe
was
$650. I don't remember, but it was quite high.
Yeah, I think things like that had made their way onto Facebook and onto Twitter and stuff. I think he's aware of those, but in general, I don't think he's out there scouring eBay to see what his stuff is going for.
Right.
And no, so he doesn't really. He knows what's rare. He knows the placebo EP is rare. Of course, he knows authorized Al is rare. But no, I don't know that he really knows. And dollar values are so hard to establish. I mean, it's really whatever someone will pay for it. You just need two people like Dave and Ethan to bid something up until the other one thinks the price is too high, and then that's the price. I mean, that's what it is. Let alone, you bring Kenneth into the mix and some of the others into the mix, and, all of a sudden something gets bid up, and that becomes what it's worth.
Right.
And that's just, so it's really not even for us to say, I mean, I sort of, had some ideas about what these things, might fetch on eBay, if they showed up again. I mean, really, we were seeing some of the rarest of the rare. And again, absolutely, a lot of one-of-a-kind stuff. I mean, that guitar, I don't even remember signing that guitar. That's not even my autograph. It is. No, of course it is.
It's a forgery.
But I don't remember that. I don't remember, and we sign a lot of things, but a guitar? I mean, that would be like, if we had signed a cymbal or something and, to go to somebody. I mean, that's something more memorable. I don't recall that. But there are photos of Jim with that guitar, and it's like, well, it's obviously his guitar. I mean, there's not a question about it. But that's a one-of-a-kind. With our autographs on it, that's a one-of-a-kind item. Those gold records in there are one-of-a-kind items. The some of the stuff that Kenneth has now, the hernia wrap sheet, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
One-of-a-kind stuff. In looking and sort of rediscovering that, I'm amazed how small it is. Nowadays, if I print up a set list or something for a show, it's got to be like in giant, typeface. And now maybe my eyes were better, almost 40 years ago when that was written. But, it amazes me because I'm sure I had it, set up there. That's not something I would have memorized at the time. In fact, of all the times I did the hernia wrap, and then it became the fat wrap with a couple of adaptations. One of them mine. He's large and in charge. Boom. That was mine. Anyway, it's amazing that I could see that I could read that. It's and there's a story, and it would have been too long to tell there, but I'm going to tell it real quick, so you know how it happens, that came about, and why it was put in my lap. I had injured myself. Steve J and I were messing around a few days before the Red Rocks show and the Monkees tour, and I hurt my left hand pretty badly.
Oh no!
Now and I went to a doctor. I mean, I just and I told Al, I said, I'm at a little bit of a deficit. I messed up my hand, and there was a bit we had when we were going to do a daylight show, because we couldn't use film as an intro. If we were inside a venue, we could show a film, and that would lead into Hernia. But we knew there were going to be some outdoor shows, and because we were on first, at 8 o'clock, let's say, and it's summertime, in most time zones, it's going to be pretty bright out. We couldn't show a film, so we were going to have to do some sort of a bit. And each of us, I think, had a thing we were going to do. So Red Rocks, as it turns out, unfortunately, was the first show where we were going to have to do something, and I think it was my turn. I was going to go first. I was going to do like a bad drum solo for like 4 minutes, which I could, and which I wasn't that keen on in the first place. But with my hand messed up, that was going to be really difficult. So I mean, I had a chat with Al early in the day. I said, "There's no way I can do this bit." So he wrote out this thing. He says, well, can you talk? Can we do this intro thing? Kind of a James Brown intro. It's a James Brown song, so and we did. And I think we rehearsed it. We must have rehearsed it, but it became such a cool thing that we continued to do it. I think we continued to do it even inside venues where we had abandoned the film instead and just did the Hernia rap instead. And because it was so well received and so appropriate for the song.
Totally.
And we continued to do that and on subsequent tours. And when Fat came about, actually 92 I think was the first time we did Fat live, I think it became the Fat rap. And we made a couple of changes. In the meantime, I'm like adding little bits and pieces, and Al's backstage, of course, changing costumes and like listening to me kind of extend this. And I know it had gotten too long. I'd add a line here, a line there. And it had gotten so long at some point that I would notice him by the side of the stage, like obviously like waiting for me to wrap it up. So it's like, okay, I've made it too long. But it was a very fun part of the show. And, there's more than a couple of videos of me online, doing different versions, probably for Hernia initially, and later for Fat, and it was a very cool thing. It was kind of my little spotlight, and I guess he thought I had the most obnoxious voice or something to do that with, and anyway, and it had never come up that anyone else in the band would do it. I mean I guess Al thought I was just obnoxious enough to do something like that, so that became my bit during the show. That was the spotlight's on me. It was pretty cool. It was very, very cool. But so that's the significance of that, is Al had to bail me out of trying to do a solo with a bad hand, which really didn't heal until the tour was over, until I stopped playing 5 nights a week and beating it up.
Wow.
So I just, on the rest of that tour, I just kind of backed off a little bit and took care of it. But that's how the Hernia rap originated. It wasn't intended. It wasn't planned until that day, and then it stuck with us. And it's been a little while since we've done it. It's not something he just pulls out unless we're going into a song, but it might return someday. I don't know, but that would be cool. And if it does, I'll be right there and do it, and I'll keep it short, Al. You'll
have to call Kenneth though to get a copy of it.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, I can look in the squeeze box.
Oh, there you
book.
go.
I can just bring that with, and when I'm not reading that, I can just look at all the other pictures I submitted.
Well, the Collector's Call did a great job highlighting Bermuda doing the Hernia rap while highlighting some of the words on the paper while he's doing it.
That was so
cool.
That
was really classy.
That was really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. It's a very well produced show. I mean, it could be a very, pedestrian kind of boring show, except to the hardcores. But it's a very well produced show. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of great editing, and it's a lot of great interest. And again, these are things that neither Kenneth or I knew were going to happen. I mean, things that, we were there doing all the chatting and stuff, but all these other things that they do, that they put in, that's what I was looking forward to, because I know they do that. I've seen the show before. Yeah. And I was just waiting to see how they would spice it all up. And they did a really great job. And I should also say that the interview that you guys did not long ago with both Lisa and Mike was really, really good. It was really great to hear their perspective, after the fact on how it went. And I'm so glad that they, had a good time and were very happy with it. And I'm very pleased with the job they did. Both of them did on it.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Everything about it has just been incredible. And obviously we know you guys well, but it seems like everyone on that team were just awesome as well. So really, really cool to hear, and really cool to get to see the final product. And I am curious. I mean, they did bring in some really great, video clips and great photos. Did you provide them with any of that stuff from it, or did they just find that on their own?
Some of the things I provided, and some of the stuff they dug up. I don't think I dug up the hernia wrap thing. Of course, now they didn't. I don't know if I even let them know in advance what I was bringing. Kenneth didn't know, of course.
Right.
I'm not sure if they wanted to know or had asked, or what. I mean, I have notes on this whole thing. I could certainly look it up, but so it's not something they could have had in advance. In other words, this could not have been a live broadcast. The way you saw it.
Right.
Oh, right, yeah.
And, but I don't know, I did supply them some photos. There was a point several months after we shot that they wanted photos from the photo books, and pictures of the covers and photos from inside, which was nice. They gave that a nice bit in there. But I don't know if they, I don't know where they got all of the photos. I mean, I may have supplied some. They may have just dug them up. I mean, honestly, that stuff is not hard to find.
Right. I was actually wondering if the pictures of your books, if they just took those at Kenneth's house.
The cover they did, but not the inside.
Okay. Because those are not the pictures. Yeah, those are not the cover pics I sent. I saw those. I thought, oh, that's really nice. It looks like real books. It's not just the artwork from the cover, which is what I sent them. They thought, oh, it'd be nice to have the book look like a book. And they're right. That's what makes that show so cool, is they do everything so well on it, and very, very impressive. I mean, not that I expected it to be shoddy, but not having been directly involved in it, they did a lot of work, a lot of post-production is what it's called, and they did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think, this is a crew of 12 people, and they showed up 7:30 a.m., and they didn't leave until 6:45 p.m.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And the owl room that we shot in, there was 4 cameras set up with 2 very large light sources.
Wow.
So it was quite a production.
So they're there all day. I'm sure that they did lots of interviews with you guys. I mean, we only got a couple little peeks into solo interviews with each of you. Was there anything they shot that you were surprised didn't make the cut?
One thing I was surprised at, but I kind of thought, no, they might or might not, just because there's not a release from various people. But I talked a little bit about the owl collectors out there. I mentioned Dave, I mentioned Ethan, Jason, Javier, UH Jeff, Jeff McSee, all our community that really shares a lot with each other, and we see each other at concerts, and just how special that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised that wasn't there.
Well, another thing I was wondering about is when we were interviewing Mike, he mentioned that they often shoot more collectibles than are actually shown in the episode. Were there items that didn't make the episode that you guys talked about in Bermuda you valued?
The only thing they left out was the Grammy autographed prop Grammy and the painter's cap. I mean, there's photos
Right.
throughout the show, but with us talking about it, and it was kind of funny because for the Grammy, I put on my white museum glove and kind of did a Michael Jackson pose before I grabbed the Grammy.
Oh, that's too bad. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, but to my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, but I think what I heard was for the Grammy, there was no, they couldn't do it because of copyright.
Ah, okay.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's interesting because in the very beginning, before we had the shoot, it was also mentioned in regards to what you're wearing, please do not wear any shirts that have Al on it. Now, they could show a shirt on the wall, on the bed, but not physically being worn.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
All that copyright stuff way above my head.
Yeah.
Yet they could show a scarf with Al's dried mucus on it, apparently.
There's no copyright on that yet.
I know.
Oh, well, that's true.
Well, it's interesting, Kenneth, because I think at one point they did show a picture of you and your family with Weird Al at the, I think it was the Washington State Fair, and at least two of you in that picture were wearing Weird Al t-shirts.
But that was a photo. It wasn't shot live.
Oh, see, these copyright laws, they're crazy.
I'm actually glad that you brought up that photo because Aaron said, "What happened to your face?" I was like, "I don't know." So after the show was over, we went back and went to that photo, and they made my eyes get larger and my mouth get a big smile with a ding.
Really?
Oh,
So
wow.
they photoshopped the picture of making me go, look at me, ding.
Oh, wow. I got to go back to that. That's great.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. Wow.
One photo I would be remiss to mention is one of the first photos they show is, Kenneth, you laying on the Hollywood Star, Weird Al's Hollywood Star,
Oh, yeah.
wearing none other than a Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast t-shirt.
I still haven't received the $10 in the mail for doing that.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail. Don't worry.
The check's in the mail. But no, that was a cool shot because obviously, very close to Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, but also very close to the Hollywood Star. So I thought that was probably one of my favorite little moments in the show, getting to see both of those together in the same spot, as well as my very bodacious, close personal friend Kenneth in the picture as well.
Yeah, I'm glad they showed that photo too. I was giving big yahoos when that came up. Plus, remembering that day, because that was the day Ethan and I and my daughter were at the Star and went to a 99-cent store, bought 2 mops, yellow, blue, and red tape, and put Stanley Spadowski's mop together and cleaned Al's Star.
Yeah, we did a whole photo shoot. We cleaned the Star. We went on the famous steps in where they shoot the Academy Awards, and then I don't know if we've ever talked about this publicly, Kenneth, but I'm willing to burn it now. We then, because Kenneth and I both had flights to catch, and we were both staying with Jeff, Jeff Nucera, and we left the Stanley mops in his house, just in random places. And it took him like a year to find them.
We put one mop in his closet in one room, and the other mop in his actual broom closet in the washing room. And finally, a year later, we hear from Jeff, "What is this? Where did this come from?"
Oh, so
That's
great.
Now, I want to quickly go over some of these prices and then get your reaction on something, Kenneth. Bermuda, you priced the Placebo EP around $400 to $500, the Complete Al jacket around $1,000 to $1,500. Wow. The entire incredible UHF collection at $4,000, the One More Minute scarf at $200, the Japanese cassette tapes about $200 to $250 each, and of course Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West guitar about $3,000 to $5,000, and then you put a entire price on the entire collection, including those items and everything else in Kenneth's bodacious collection, at around $200,000. And I know, Kenneth, you said, I don't look at my collection as dollar signs, but what did you think of when Bermuda priced your collection at $200,000?
I first thought, did I spend that much money? No, I'm just kidding. I was amazed. I mean, when you've got a lot of items, as you know, Dave and Ethan, that go into the thousands, photos to personal correspondence to LPs, each thing adds up to where, yeah, it could be that high or more. I had never stopped to really think about it.
That's incredible. Yeah, Bermuda, did you look at every single thing he had, or how did you come up with that number?
No, I didn't see. I didn't see probably 90% of what he's got. Maybe more. Like he said, there's stuff in a closet, and there's stuff in an attic, and there's stuff under the bed that I was standing next to the whole time. I should have just crawled down there and see the stuff. He had a certain amount of stuff on display in the room we shot, which I should add is kind of a medium-sized bedroom, with like a double bed in it, and 3 people with cameras and some lights set up, and Lisa and Kenneth and I standing there, and it was very tight, and you could see that we're like kind of right next to each other. We were right next to each other. We were like within inches.
Yeah,
and not in an uncomfortable way, but there were like. There were at least at all times at least 7 of us with equipment, big tripods and stuff in this room. Not even the whole room, because we're like in front of the bed, so the bed takes up Anyway, there's shelves and cabinets. All I saw a bunch of stuff, but I didn't see most of it, and I knew that the specific things I was seeing, that the amount of what's the word, crap. I'm sorry, the amount of collectibles. Yes, that's the amount of stuff, the amount of amazing stuff he's got that we didn't see. I knew that there's a lot of, there's a lot of impossible, valuable stuff that people would pay, $300, $500, $1,000 for, and how many such items are there? 100 such items, maybe 200 items. That's nothing. So imagine 200 incredible items that you could get $500 a piece for. That's $100,000 right there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So 200,000 was not really, out of line. If there was one of you collectors out there that had $1 million to spend, you would probably give him $1 million for everything he had, and he probably wouldn't take it. But you would probably offer $1 million. So that means it's worth $1 million.
Yeah.
Is whatever the offer is. That's how. So. And nothing personal. I'm not offering $200,000 for that collection, but I think that's a fair estimate, if not a little modest, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's modest. I think, yeah, if you really went down to it and you were to auction every single thing off, I'm sure it would be higher than 200,000. There is some really incredible stuff that I know you have and that we've seen and that I'm sure you haven't even told us about, Kenneth. We always joke about Kenneth's collection as like the Bat Cave, where you just keep going down deeper and deeper, and there's just more incredible stuff that you've never heard of. So really, it's incredible, and I'm so grateful that the world got to be introduced to Weird Al collecting through the two of you, because you really you made us look good. Those of us who are Weird Al collectors, people don't really understand it, and I think what a great avenue for people to learn about it as Collector's Call, and then what great arbiters of this is having you two on. So big thank you to both of you for all of the great work on this episode.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The one thing that I'm at least happy about is I'm sure there's a few owl collectors that look to their spouses or significant others and said, "Look, I'm not crazy."
Yep. There are people who are going to be pointing to it, be like, "Hey, I spent $500 on this, but look at this guy. He's got all this stuff. That's okay, right?"
You know what's funny is yesterday I went to a smoothie shop near my home to get a Rejuvenator smoothie, and I walk in and the girl behind the counter goes, "You look familiar. Do I know you?" And then she goes, "Wait a minute, you were on MeTV."
Wow.
Oh,
And then she was like, "I'm a big Weird Al fan. That was so cool. Where do you live?" Somewhere up in the mountains.
Oh, that's so funny.
awesome. So Kenneth and Bermuda, you guys might know this, and Ethan, you probably know this. I've actually had a camera crew in my house. I had them come over to film my Weird Al, John Bermuda Schwartz, Jim Chemo West, and Steve J tattoos, and they did some interviews in my living room. So I'm familiar with having a camera crew and a whole bunch of people in the house. Kenneth, what was your reaction to having people in the house, and was there any funny stories from that time while they were there?
So we're filming, and Ethan and Adriana have both stayed at my house before and have slept in the owl room, so they know outside of the owl room is a half bath, which is up against the wall, and we're filming, and you hear this noise coming through the wall, and the producer director goes, "Cut, wait a minute, is there anybody in the bathroom?" And then you hear this voice coming through the wall, "Yeah, I'm almost done." and he's like, "Well, can you hurry it up? And for the rest of you, if you've got to use the bathroom, go upstairs." It was I didn't know if he was going to be stopping the filming or not, because I could hear, some things coming through the wall.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, gosh.
Gotta have bloopers.
That's awesome.
Now, you know what, Dave? You mentioned the tattoos. I'll let you in on a little secret. We get asked all the time. I get asked all the. Al gets asked, why does the band? How have you managed to keep the same band members for forever, for all of these years? And we basically just didn't want to see you, have those tattoos be inaccurate. We wanted to stay loyal to your ink, and unless you remove one of them and can free us up. I know that Jim would pay $50,000 to get out of this. Just saying. If you ever short of cash and you want to put someone else's face over that, he's tap into it first. I'm not going anywhere, so it's not going to be me. But
Okay.
and of course Al's not either. But yeah, that's why we've. Nobody's left. We didn't want to hurt you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, and I've only got I've run out of ankles, so if you start adding members or anything, it's going to get really confusing, very hard to. So I appreciate the effort that you and the other guys put to stay together as a loyal band for all these years, just because of my tattoos.
Yeah, we were so touched by that. It was very, we talked about it. We said we can't let him down. He's gonna, if one of us leaves, or this all disbands someday. Dave's gonna be very hurt.
Yeah,
and we can't. He's such a good guy, and we don't. And someday he's probably gonna have a podcast, whatever that is, and we just didn't want to do it. Now, as far as I know, you don't have Ruben on there, and I do have some suggestions as to where to put him, but maybe off the air.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Well, with that, I think we maybe should wrap up, guys. Thank you so much for chatting with us all about the incredible Collector's Call episode on MeTV. Kenneth, what an amazing collection.
Thanks.
Bermuda, what incredible insight you were able to provide. Thank you guys so much for telling us all about it. And I think I'm just going to go watch the episode again. You guys have me all jazzed up.
That's awesome. And hey, thank you to you and Dave for all that you do for the Owl fans. Your podcast, number one.
Yeah, and thank you guys for everything you do for Al and the boys. And Kenneth, thanks for having such an amazing collection and getting me a free stay at a hotel in Seattle that night. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed myself.
Oh, thank you so much, Bermuda and Kenneth, for joining us this episode and sharing all that incredible behind-the-scenes information about the Collector's Call episode.
It's must-see TV. If you haven't seen it, you don't want to miss it. If you have seen it, watch it again.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota, beautiful, it's also gobble, gobble, gobble.
Darwin, Minnesota is not huge, but it's not poultry.
That's right. Darwin, Minnesota is home to Darwin Turkey.
Darwin Turkey is the best turkey farm northwest of Mississippi.
Darwin Turkey is owned and operated by Larry Jansen. That is until he retired from turkey farming in 2007.
Oh, and he passed away just 14 short years later in 2021 at age 70.
Ugh, 14. What a stupid number.
Larry Eugene Jansen was born on June 11th, 1950, in Pipestone, Minnesota.
He graduated from Pipestone High School in 1968 and served in the United States Navy.
Throughout his life, he worked on mink, chicken, and turkey farms and was a member of the American Legion and the Gaylord Color Guard.
Larry enjoyed watching WWE wrestling and Minnesota Vikings and Gopher football games.
From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, Gill and chill in peace, Larry Eugene Jansen.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next turkey expedition. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Discover Darwin, more than just a twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit www.discoverdarwin.biz.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors, Burrito Burrito, Wizard Burger, our very own Jackson Scoggins, and Discover Darwin. Our podcast is also supported by everyone else in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our very own close personal friend level Patreon supporters, Scotto, Matt, Kev, Casey, Allison, Adriana, Gus and Alicia, Zach, Ron, Zeb, Dana B, UH Jeff, Blair, Ajax, Javier, Kenneth, and also thanks to our newest close personal friend level Patreon supporter, Nancy, and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our highly collectible Weird Al podcast, as heard in the Weird the Al Yankovic story commentary track, please consider supporting us over at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast, your very own private RSS feed, which gives you early access to each and every one of our bonus episodes, and the self-satisfaction of doing something important with your otherwise pitiful, meaningless existence.
And don't forget to check out our official merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. All proceeds from purchases go directly towards supporting our fine podcast. We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so be sure to join our Facebook community at group.2000inch.com and visit our Discord server for even more Weird Al and Red Rum Goody related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website, as well as information about past episodes and guests over at 2000inch.com or weirdalpodcast.com.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, X, Threads, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts so you do not miss a single episode. Not only does subscribing help the podcast, all of your Weird Al related trades will be featured on an episode of MeTV's Collector's Call. Plus, we also love it when we receive voicemail via our official patent-pending 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347-SPATULA, as seen in the Illustrated Al, the songs of Weird Al Yankovic. That number is 347-772-8852. Put it in your phone, give it a call or a text, and you might even hear your message in a future episode.
Thank you once again to the great Jon Bermuda Schwartz and the bodacious Kenneth Guinup for joining us this episode. We'd also like to thank Claire Walsh, Lisa Welchel, Mike Schmiedler, MeTV, our very own UHF Nucera, Javier Valdez, J.M. Kehoe, Mike Minnick, Erica Pell, Adriana Yugovich, Tim Duria, Andy Feldman, Lauren Robinson, Matthew Milligan, Matt Kelly, and the late Larry Eugene Jansen. Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible podcast theme song, and thank you to the bodacious Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thanks to all of you, our loyal listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our podcast possible.
Thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000 Weird Al podcast. And until the very next time, please remember to gill and chill, keep listening to Weird Al, and always stay cheesy.
You know, after all this talk about Kenneth and Bermuda's collections and their trade, you know what, Dave? I think that we should set up an on-air trade of our own.
Ooh, you know what? I actually like that idea. What do you propose?
Okay. I will trade you my super rare unsigned copy of Weird Al's first extended play, otherwise known as the Placebo EP, for your copy of the Demented Punk Records 3-inch vinyl Beat on the Brat single.
Oh, wow. That's a really stacked trade. But, you know, I already have the Placebo EP, Ethan.
Okay, fine. I'll sweeten the deal a little. I'll also throw in the super rare, slow-grown 1978 vinyl featuring the song Take Me Down.
I have that too. And it's okay. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have extras, I guess.
Okay, fine, Dave. I'll toss in the rare, red, Mexican vinyl of Like a Surgeon, the Another One Rides the Bus single from Holland, the entire Dr. Demento Basement Tapes collection, the Authorized Al, a vinyl edition of the Squeezebox box set, in the box, still sealed, and $1,500 spending money.
Why do you want my Beat on the Brat 3-inch vinyl single so badly?
My kitchen table's a little wobbly. I think it will fit perfectly under the leg.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 228-inch.
This episode was absolutely bodacious. It's tough, but I've always wanted to see Chill Factor.